Hello and welcome to Silverstone. Today we're racing on the fabulous Grand Prix circuit and we're certainly going to do it justice. We've got an incredible grid of over 40 stunning GT cars. Welcome to the season opener of the 2010 GT Cup Championship. The GT Cup is now in its third season and is going from strength to strength. Pirelli remains as the official tyre supplier for 2010, but new this season is a reorganisation of the class structure and an upgrade to championship status. The entry list shows an impressive variety of cars. Now the cars are split into three groups based mainly on the car's lap time performance in pre-season testing. Initial indications from the times in testing show that the cars in each three groups are pretty evenly matched, so we should expect some really close racing throughout the field. This year's Group 1 is home to the most powerful and fastest cars on the grid, including the Ferrari 430 and the Porsche 997. Group 2 includes the likes of the Ferrari 360, the Porsche 996 and the BMW M3. And Group 3 features an impressive mix of more standard GT cars like the BMW Z4 and a rather striking Honda NSX. This is success ballast, and this is what you get for finishing first, second or third in group. The higher you finish, the more of this stuff you get. The idea of the extra weight is to keep the racing competitive and hopefully should result in an exciting battle for the honour of becoming the first ever GT Cup champion. The first qualifying of the season happened yesterday, so let's go and speak to the drivers on pole position in each of the groups for race 1. David, great qualifying from you. You're starting on pole for Group 3.
Yeah, that's the first time I've been on pole, so I'm really excited and can't wait for the race.
So, Marco, a new season and a new livery for you. You're looking very corporate this year.
Yeah, it's very corporate this year. Sporting the new orange and black livery. Trying to stand out a bit more from the crowd.
Well, we'll certainly see you coming in that. Hi Phil, so fantastic qualifying for the car. You're starting on pole position for race 1, aren't you?
I am, but that's on John Gau's lap, not my lap, but that's part of the rules of the series, so we'll take advantage of that.
Well, I know that the race is about to start, so we'll let you get ready. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, what a fantastic way to kick off the season here. A grid of 42 cars here at the home of British Motorsports. Here on the second row of the grid, well, it's a Ferrari head-to-head. Jeff Ledley here, he got the most wins in the Ferrari last year, so should go well here. But on the front row, well, it's a Porsche 997 lockout. Jim Geddy starting in second place, but on pole, it's Phil Driver. So it'll be interesting to see who gets to that first corner first.
Phil Driver's car having been qualified by John Gau, it is on pole position, but there going nowhere is Leon Price, who's stalled on the grid in the Ferrari. Everybody else dodges around him, but Leon Price will now have to start right at the very back. So Phil Driver starts in 81, he does the first race, John Gau will do the second, and Phil's on pole, Jim Geddy alongside him. The second row of the grid, Jeff Ledley with the quickest of the Ferraris, and Steve Quick lining up alongside him. And you can see in this monster grid, great variety. Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, Ginetta, the Venturi, the KTM Crossbows in there for good measure, the BMW Z4 Coupe of Sarah Bennett Bags. And it is so encouraging to see such a big entry for this opening round of this new championship status that we have for the GT Cup for this year. It's going to be a rolling start then as the cars work their way around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Michael Saunders will start near the back of the grid as the lights go out. Now the race gets underway on the run down towards Cops Corner for the first time. Phil Driver it is in the pole-sitting Porsche who gets mugged on either side, because through on the inside goes Jeff Ledley and on the outside line Jim Geddy as the cars turn their way through Cops for the first time and now head up towards Maggots. They're approaching Beckett's and Phil Driver fights back, does he? Yes, he retakes the advantage. Very brave bit of driving that on the inside, going through Maggots into Beckett's, who slots in behind him. It is going to be Jim Geddy and then Jeff Ledley in the first of the Ferraris. So it's a Porsche 1-2 at the moment as the cars work their way through Chapel Curve onto the Hanger Straight for the first time. Still the cars are pouring through the Beckett's S's. as now making his bid for the race lead there. Jim Geddy thinks about the outside and then the inside as they get to the braking area for Stoke Corner. Is Jim Geddy going to go through on the inside? Yes, he is. I think he's got the better line for the corner. Almost hung out to dry on the outside there was Phil Driver. He slots back in second place. You're on board with Phil Driver now in the Porsche. Jeff Ledley dives through on the inside, coming down towards the end of the Vale, and now it's the re-profiled Club Corner. Silverstone has been a hive of building activity over the last few months, preparing it for its new look, for its secured future with the British Grand Prix. And this section of the circuit, in the fullness of time, will become the start and finish area on the Grand Prix circuit. Now, though, up towards Abbey, the new leader, Jim Geddy, under huge pressure from Jeff Ledley right there behind him. Phil Driver then down in third place, and you're on board here with Toby Tarrant-Willis. Runs really wide, coming through Club way out wide over the curve onto the run-off concrete tarmac there, and now tries to make a move on the inside. He goes past Dan Norris-Jones Lotus as the cars head up through Abbey. The leaders, though, are already down into the stadium for the first time. Chris Randall going great guns in the Lotus now, trying to mix it with the three leaders. There he is in fourth place at the moment as Phil Driver looks for a way past Jeff Ledley. At the end of lap one, though, it is going to be Jim Geddy that leads the way in the Porsche. Past the pits, down towards Thompson, you can see now the Apex Tubulars Porsche is getting away. You're on board with Chris Bentley in the Alpha Tube Run Porsche. That's Andrew's team adopting the principle of running all sorts of machinery these days, apart from just Alfa Romeos, and the Alpha Tube Porsche sweeps its way now out of the long right-hander of Luffield up towards the end of the lap. Chris Bentley himself, an ex-Alfa Romeo racer, and has adapted very well to Porsche's, going much better this season so far than he was a year ago. And that's Chris Randall in the Lotus, look, diving up the inside of Phil Driver. Class winner a couple of weeks ago in the British GT Championship when he shared the car as Upton Park with John Gore, but now in the GT Cup Championship he's having to work very hard indeed to keep Chris Randall at bay, who's about to dive up the inside there, dropping down to the end of the Vale, and he's gone through, and Phil Driver is still under pressure, look. Alex Martin is right there behind him, and then also charging on is Danny Winstanley in the bright green TVR, going great guns that car. Lower down the order, it's Ferrari versus BMW. Further proof of the great variety that goes on within the GT Cup Championship. Marco Pullen it is, number 13, ahead of Keith Webster there with the E36 shape BMW M3. And most people have found somebody to battle against, including their David Hathaway, who rather robustly lunges up the inside there to gain a place away from Francis Galashan's Porsche, going to the end of the Vale. And once again, Toby Tarrant-Willis runs out of room on the outside of Club Corner. He's alongside the Ferrari, and still he can't get back onto the proper racing line. You can see the two different elements of Club Corner these days. It's a sort of L shape rather than one flowing right-hander, and at both elements of it, Toby Tarrant-Willis, who's up from the back of the grid, by the way, and being forced off the road. The reason he was at the back of the grid, he had a radiator problem in the qualifying session. He only got 2 laps in, and so now he is scything his way through the field. There's another place to be gained on the inside there, coming through Bridge. Goes ahead of Francis Galashan, or does he? No, Galashan stays ahead of him. The two Porsches nose to tail coming down towards Brooklands now. On the inside there is Toby Tarrant-Willis in the blue and green livery Porsche. Can he squeeze by? Yes, he can. He's done it this time, but he's on the outside line for Luffield, but Francis Galashan has to slot back in behind him. In the meantime, David Hathaway is pretty busy trying to fend off the very rapid KTM crossbow in the hands of Sam Mole as they turn their way down towards the left-hander at Brooklands. Group 3 Ferrari, a KTM in Group 2, which gets all crossed up there, just about held by Sam Mole, the man behind the wheel of it, as they come nose to tail now up towards the completion of the lap. It's a 25-minute race, this, rather than a set number of laps, so the flag goes out the first time the race leader crosses the line once those 25 minutes are up. And David Hathaway here working very hard indeed in the Ferrari, and it's one of the venerable 360 challenge models to keep the KTM at bay. Sam Mole turns his way through Copse. New to the KTM this year, the car brilliant. It's had great success in the super sport class in the European GT4 concept. A replay here of Francis Galashan running a bit wide, going through Priory, finding all the dirt and dust on the outside of the road and losing the place, David back through on the inside line. Former Brit car racer turning to the GT Cup this year, and there, contact. Winston Graham it is, who clips the Porsche, spins off the road, the bonnet goes flying. Now, has he done any more serious damage than just losing bodywork? The car is back in the right direction. He spears his way through the gravel back onto the road, and that was all very dramatic indeed. The Marcos Mantis, this new lightweight model, rumbles back onto the road. There's the contact. He spears off the road. The bonnet is ripped off as the car spins wildly to the side of the circuit, and Winston Graham able to carry on, as now David Hathaway is very, very busy keeping Sam Mole at bay. Up they come now towards Abbey, the new Grand Prix circuit. The Arena Grand Prix circuit will take them off to the right. They go left through Abbey and then down towards Bridge. The Ferrari keeps the KTM behind him, and that, I'm afraid, is Rupert Martin off the road. You can see the new pit wall there in the background. That's the wall coming from Club Corner up towards Abbey, where the new pits will be located for the future of Silverstone's Grand Prix circuit, and that car's stranded now on the track. In fact, Jim Geddy still leads the way in the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, the 997 shape Porsche, coming up now towards the completion of the lap. Safety car flags and boards are there, so because of the Rupert Martin Porsche stranded on the track, the race is going to be neutralised. Jeff Ledley comes through behind him in second place. Phil Dryborough is best of the rest, and there you can see getting out of the car, Rupert Martin is okay. The back of the Porsche rather less so, but that, I'm afraid, is still stuck on the circuit. And it looks as though it might take quite a long time to remove from there. Yes, indeed, the red flag is being shown and the checkered flag as well, and that confirms Jim Geddy as the race winner, because the race will not be restarted. So Jim Geddy is victorious, Jeff Ledley second ahead of Phil Dryborough, and Danny Winstanley in the TVR Tuscan in fourth, fifth Alex Martin, and Steve Quick rounding out the top six. In the groups, Jim Geddy, the Group 1 winner, ahead of Jeff Ledley and Phil Dryborough. Group 2 won by Marco Pullen, ahead of Keith Webster and then Chris Bentley, while in Group 3 is David Hathaway, David Botterill and Adrian Watt.
Congratulations, Jim, a great way to start the season.
That was good. It was a good race. I think Phil and Jeff got held up a bit between each other, so it was easy for me to slip away, but just concentrating to stay in there and make no mistakes. So it was a good race. Pity it was shortened, but we'll have a harder race the second one, so looking forward to that.
Great race, first one of the season. Just perfect, great grid. Unfortunately, it was a red flag, but it's still a win. So,
I'm absolutely over the moon. Just as we were saying earlier, we kept them off, and here we are. Got a bit go with the Expo, which was a bit hairy, but no, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, what a fantastic way to start the season. Join us after the break for race 2. Welcome back to Silverstone. Now we're in the garages. It's about 20 minutes from the start of race 2, and you can see behind me Chris Randall's team. They're working like beavers trying to get this car back out on track in time for race 2. What's the problem?
Yeah, really unfortunate, because we were doing quite well. We think it's the head gasket. We've just pulled it all apart and we're just about to get it back together again. Yeah, we're pedalling as fast as we can to get to the second race.
So here we are. This is the spot where Chris Randall should have been. At the moment, it doesn't look like his team have managed to make it out onto the grid. But just look at the sight down there. I mean, GT cars as far as the eye can see. And if you ask me, there's only one thing better than the sight of these cars, and that's the sound of them. Collectively, underneath these bonnets, you're talking about 15,000 horsepower. When these lot get going, well, it's enough to make your teeth rattle. We're nearly ready for race 2 now. Up on pole position this time, it's John Gore starting in the pole car. So we'll see how he gets on in the race. But now let me hand you over to your commentator, David Addison.
Thanks, Charlie. So John Gore, the man on pole position, lines up alongside the race 1 winner Jim Geddy. We're on board with Andy Ruin as the cars leave the line under the green flag for the rolling start. And as ever in the GT Cup Championship, it is a monster field. Gore and Geddy, row 1. Jeff Ledley shares the second row with Danny Winstanley, who went really well in the TVR Tuscan in the first race. Chris Randall had a gearbox problem in race 1. Well, fingers crossed that he's going to be able to work his way up from the pit lane in order to be a factor in this race. And you can see the BMWs in midfield. We've got the Ginetta G50 of Bjorn Gustafsson in the mix as well. David Back went pretty well with his Ferrari 360 in the opening race. So as the cars wriggle their way through the stadium, we are just about set for racing. The second round of this year's GT Cup Championship, blessed with championship status this year. And John Gore, former Caterham star, he's racing Renault Clios as well as the likes of Brick Car and the British GT Championship. He's the man on pole. Jim Geddy lining up alongside him. The lights will go out then to get the race underway any moment as they turn now through Woodcote Corner. And John Gore slowly makes his way up towards the lights that are extinguished now. The cars accelerate away down towards Copse. And John Gore swings across then to claim the line, going into the first right-hander of Copse. Geddy goes second, Danny Winstanley on the outside line, sneaks into third as they turn their way up now towards Magnus. Then Beckett's on lap 1 as this enormous field pours its way through Copse. And look at the way already that John Gore, who to be fair is the class of the field really in this race, is already getting away for a very sideways Danny Winstanley. That car's colour draws attention to itself there, the TVR Tuscan, but the way that it was sideways also brought attention as well. On board with Sarah Bennett-Baggs here, leading Group 3. Out of Beckett's heading towards Chapel Curve and then onto the hanger straight for the first time. The BMW Z4 Coupe going really well as we've got a battle on for 4th place. Jeff Ledley under huge pressure then as he dives down towards Stowe. 87 is right on his tail. Alex Martin in the Porsche. Down through the Vale for the first time. John Gore is getting away. Danny Winstanley in 2nd place in the Kermit Green TVR. And then Jim Geddy was 3rd, but Jeff Ledley dives up the inside, gets ahead of him and just seemed to clip the back of Winstanley's car as well. They've all survived, although Geddy comes off worse. He was hung out to dry there. Forced wide going down towards the end of the Vale, but he fights back on the inside through the first part of Club Corner, goes wide in the second element, gets back onto the circuit. He's still ahead of Ledley, and Alex Martin is still looking for a way by the yellow Porsche. The very gung-ho Ledley tries to go up the inside now, turning through Abbey, but still Jim Geddy in the Apex Tubular's Porsche is able to hang on in there. He's delayed himself by having to defend like this, and so now Winstanley is pulled away in 2nd place as they come down towards Priory. TVR Tuscan, big rear wing, sitting proud on the back of the car, turns through Brooklands as Ledley lunges up the inside of Jim Geddy to take 3rd place away, successfully too at Brooklands. Jim Geddy straight away is on his case, fighting back as they go around Luffield, but to no avail. Leon Price in 88 there, the black Ferrari, sitting on the tail of Alex Martin's Porsche now as they make the run up over the line. Raucous TVR goes through, Danny Winstanley chasing after John Gore, Ledley 3rd, Geddy is in 4th place, and then for 5th place is Alex Martin just ahead of Leon Price. They all dive down towards Copse. The next battle trying to resolve itself behind has in the midst of all of that Andy Ruin in number 6 Porsche, but there was a still yellow flag on what I saw there as the cars turned into Copse. That might just hamper 1 or 2 drivers' efforts. Up through Beckett goes Jeff Ledley, and now that he's managed to shake off the efforts of Jim Geddy, what can he do about the 2 ahead of him for the race lead? Danny Winstanley is doing a superb job here. He's going after John Gore, a much more experienced driver. Danny Winstanley is bringing the gap down. Porsche versus TVR ahead of Ferrari. Different manufacturers represented in the leading 3 places here in the GT Cup Championship. Behind them, Porsche, Ferrari. Geddy ahead there of Martin, ahead of Leon Price. Marco Polo, man number 13, is next as he turns his way through Stowe, and Andy Ruin is on the tail, but he runs a little bit wide in the white Porsche. The cars dive down through the Vale, heading towards the Reprofile Club. Andy Ruin not really near enough there, looking the white Porsche to have a go at Marco Polo's orange and black Ferrari. 360 GTC leading Group 2 at the moment. Marco Polo back on the power through the first bite of Club Corner, then through the second. As heading down the pit lane comes number 31. That is the Michael Simmons driven BMW E46 shape M3. Winston Graham's Marcos turning its way through Stowe Corner 42. Looking in the midst of all of that is John Taylor in the Porsche, another vastly experienced driver who does a bit of historic racing on occasions as well, former Caterham driver. Winston Graham's Marcos patched up after his incident in the earlier race, and he's got one of the KTMs there sneaking in behind him. Number 7 it is, Tom Andrew with the KTM Crossbow. How's that for variety? KTM alongside the venerable Marcos. Losers, Marcos and Ginetta all battling, and a big lose for number 72, Sarah Bennett-Baggs, I'm afraid. That means that she has lost her Group 3 lead. And Sarah struggling to get going again. I think she tries to find a gear. In the meantime, number 32, BMW, heads down towards the right-hander of Bridgebend. That's Adrian Watt now into Priory. Sarah Bennett-Baggs has got going again. Her class lead, and indeed many other places within Group 3 have now long gone. And that off the road is Björn Gustafsson, the Swedish driver with the patriotic rear wing, running in the invitation class, this Ginetta G50 that doesn't really meet the technical specification for the other 3 groups, so the invitation group is where he runs, and it's good to have the car here this weekend as they're looking up into 2nd place. Jeff Ledley ahead now of Danny Winstanley. Out of Abbey they go down towards Bridgebend. The yellow and blue Ferrari then up into 2nd place overall, and of course all of these 3 cars running in Group 1, so you've got a group battle as much as an overall situation. But because you've had TVR versus Ferrari for a few laps, that's enabled John Gore now to break away. And it looks as though that gap between 1st and 2nd may now be insurmountable as far as Jeff Ledley's quest is concerned. Danny Winstanley, who's been a real asset to the championship this weekend, in 3rd place. Swings the TVR Tuscan out of the right-hander of Luffield now towards Woodcote. Tuscan, of course, you can trace back to his Wildcat Championship that began in 1989, so it's hardly a car in the first flush of youth, but it's being driven very effectively indeed. To be fair to Winstanley, he's not letting the yellow Ferrari get away from him. Out of Copse, up now towards Beckett's. Meantime, John Gore, the Scotsman, pulling away from the rest of them. Marco Paul and Andy Ruin et al. Come now in towards Woodcote Corner. Behind them there you can see number 12, Steve Quick, with his Ferrari. That 430 goes through and on board now with Andy Ruin. He's alongside Marco Pullen. down towards Cobb's Corner. The pit straight also looking very different these days. And Ruin goes through, goes ahead of Pullen, takes the place away. The Group 1 Porsche goes ahead of the Group 2 Ferrari, but it's the overall situation that's spurring Andy Ruin on here, and Marco Pullen now on the defensive as well to make sure that as many people as possible stay behind him. Runs just a little bit deep into the mid part of the Beckett's S's there as Marco Pullen. He's on the power and he's still on the tail of Ruin as well. He's not letting the Porsche get away. Onto the hanger straight they come. Andy Ruin now possibly will just be able to stretch the legs of the Porsche and edge clear. 911 GT3 997 shaped car, and he goes down towards Stowe as Marco Pullen loses another place. Steve Quick goes ahead of him. There another challenge being made and launching himself up on the inside. Fraser Robertson with his 996 shape 911 RSR Porsche. So those are all Group 1 cars going ahead of the Group 2 Ferrari. Although Marco Pullen will be frustrated to have lost places, it doesn't really affect his class position at all, and that, I'm afraid, does affect Andy Ruin, who gets tapped into a spin by Steve Quick. He's in the gravel at the end of the Vale, and this is what happened to him. Bam! Turns in, wallop. Up the inside, already gone. Steve Quick. Steve a bit too quick, I'm afraid. He wasn't on the brakes early enough. The net result is contact is made between the two. Andy Ruin gets tapped into the spin. He's in the gravel, and that, I fear, is the end of the race for him. He's not been able to dig himself out. Jeff Ledley, still second, has still got the green TVR filling his mirrors. David Hathaway continuing a battle he had in race 1 with a KTM. Different car, admittedly, this time. It was the Sam Bowl driven KTM he was defending from in race 1. Now it is the Tom Andrew car. Winston Graham is right up behind him as well in the Marcos Mantis. Down they come, in towards Brooklands. David Hathaway, who has been a mainstay of the GT Cup ever since it began. The venerable Ferrari 360 hangs onto its place. Right there behind him is Tom Andrew. KTM Crossbow gets the inside line, coming out of Luffield, are alongside one another now. Andrew looks across at the Ferrari, which has got a bit more poke as the power is wound up, and so Tom Andrew drops back behind David Hathaway as Danny Winstanley breaks very late and slides off the road up at Stowe Corner. He's back on the road and he's lost it. Round comes the back. Oh no, disaster. Danny Winstanley has thrown away what was looking very good to be third place. Now let's see how many other positions he's going to drop, and this is a replay as well of Steve Quick once again heading very late on the brakes down towards the end of the Vale. He's got ahead of Marco Pullen, who then fights back. The two Ferraris battle away. Well, John Gore is looking very comfortable up front for a race win. Powering his way into the last corner. The checker flag is ready for him. The 25 minutes are up. And so victory in round 2 of the GT Cup Championship goes the way of the light flashing John Gore. Second across the line, Jeff Ledley, and Jim Geddy takes third. That spin for Danny Winstanley cost him only one place. It dropped him to 4th ahead of Alex Martin, and then Leon Price in 6th ahead of Pullen, Quick, Gary Eastwood and Don Grice to round out the top 10. In the groups, Gore, Ledley and Geddy, the top 3 in Group 1. Marco Pullen ahead of Keith Webster and Colin Bowl in Group 2. Group 3 honours to Adrian Watt this time ahead of Tom Andrew and David Hathaway. Jim Geddy leaves Silverstone as the Group 1 leader by a point from Jeff Ledley. 6 points separate Marco Pullen from Keith Webster, while Group 3, David Hathaway and Adrian Watt share a group lead. So a delighted John Gore makes his way up onto the top step of the podium here at Silverstone. It has been a superb race weekend of the GT Cup Championship. John Gore comes out on top.
So the champagne's been sprayed here at Silverstone, which just leaves me to say goodbye. But make sure you join us next time for a brand new event on the GT Cup Championship calendar, which will see the UK's largest GT grid racing on the UK's fastest circuit, Thruxton. It's sure to be spectacular, so I'll see you then.